What's up, guys? Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com. So in today's video, we're continuing our series on modeling a floor plan in SketchUp by modeling our doors and windows. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. All right, so I'll link to last week's video as well as to the example file where you can download the actual floor plan so that you can follow along in the notes down below. You can also just download that at TheSketchUpEssentials.com/floor plan. And so now we're at the point where we've got our interior and exterior walls modeled, tagged, and grouped. And remember what that means is that we can toggle the exterior wall, the interior wall, and the reference image off like this, all without any of that geometry interacting with any of the other geometry. And so what we want to do now is we want to come in here and we want to start adding our doors and our windows to this model. And so the very first thing we're going to do is we're just going to pick a location. So in this situation, we're just going to pick this door right here. And you can see how the door is kind of like laid out on the floor plan, but we're really just going to create kind of a simple door for right now. And so the very first thing you want to do when you create a door is you just want to draw a rectangle over the surface like this. And so when I draw a rectangle over the surface, I've now got this rectangle that I can start working with. And what I want to do, and I'm going to turn my cursor highlighter on. So what I want to do now is I just want to select these edges. So I'm just doing a shift click to select all three of these edges. And then I'm going to tap the F key on my keyboard and notice how this little dot pops up. Well, what I can do is I can single click and move my mouse in. Remember, you're single clicking, you're not clicking and dragging. And what we're doing is we're just moving our mouse in the direction that we want to offset these edges. And in this case, I'm going to type in a value of 2 for 2 inches and hit the enter key. And then you can come in here and you can erase out this edge at the bottom because we don't need it right now. Notice what that does is that removes this interior face and leaves us with basically a door frame. And so now that we have a door frame, what we want to do is we want to use the push-pull tool to extrude this to the back. So I'm just going to tap the P key and then mouse over this surface, single click, and I'm going to move my mouse. Now, if you have a 3-button mouse with a scroll wheel, while this tool is active, what you can do is you can click and drag that middle mouse button in order to orbit. And notice how that's just going to allow me to orbit around. And I can click on the back side of the wall right here in order to do this. If you don't, for whatever reason, have a 3-button mouse with a scroll wheel, you can just move your mouse over the top here and click on the back side of the wall. And it's going to do the same thing. It's going to extrude this frame back to the back side of the wall. And so now, before we go any further, we want to pay attention to our organization. So we're going to tap the space key in order to go back to the select tool. And we're just going to click and drag across this. And we want to right click and we want to group it. So we're just going to make this a group right here. What that does is this now is going to set this up where this geometry isn't merging with my wall geometry, which is really good because that means if we make any changes, you don't have all this nasty geometry kind of like stuck together in here. Now, while we're going, let's go ahead and let's organize this. So we're going to go into the outliner right here. Notice how this is named group. Well, I'm just going to right click on it and I'm just going to call this door dash frame right here. Well, now what we want to do is we want to model our door. And in this case, we're going to model this door so that it's open right here. It should probably be on the other side now that I look at this. And obviously this space could probably be laid out a little bit better, but that's fine. So we're actually going to model our door over here. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to start by modeling it flat. And so for this door to fit in this frame, it would actually have a length of 2 foot 8 inches. Notice how I'm kind of checking that using the line tool right here. Well, now I'm just going to draw a line that's going to be 2 foot 8 inches right here. And then I'm just going to give it a little bit of thickness. So we'll say it's going to be, call it 1 inch thick. And then we'll draw a line back right here like this. We're going to close this in. Now, what we can do is we can use the push-pull tool in order to extrude this door up like this. Now that door seems a little bit thin to me, so we might pull it out just a little further. It probably doesn't matter for what we're trying to do right here though. So maybe we'll just leave it. And I'm just going to do the same thing where I'm going to take this door, I'm going to select it, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to put that in a group. And remember, in this case, we want to rename this to be door dash leaf. Okay, so now we need to add our door swing. But before we add our door swing, what I want to do is I want to take this door and actually close it so that it's not in the way, because we need to be able to draw out a two-dimensional profile on the door. So that's pretty easy. Now that we've grouped this, we can just tap the Q key, tap the up arrow key to lock our rotate tool to the blue axis, and I'm just going to move my mouse out and pick this point, and I'm going to rotate this door 90 degrees right here. So now we've got a closed door in here, and what we can do is we can model out a two-dimensional leaf. So the two-dimensional leaf and the arc that we're going to add are basically indicators of where that door is going to swing when we open it. So I'm just going to draw a line like this and close this in, and then I'm going to draw an arc using this point and this point using the arc tool, which you can activate by tapping the A key on your keyboard. And now what we want to do is we want to select what we've just drawn. We want to right click on it, and we want to make this a group as well. And there's a good reason for this, which we'll talk about in a second. But for now, let's just right click on it, and we're going to call this door dash swing right here. So now what we have is we have three pieces of a door. But in this situation, now I want to take those three pieces and I want to put them in a component. So I'm going to select all three of these groups, right? So I just dragged a box around all of them. I'm going to right click and I'm going to make it a component. And in this case, we're just going to call this door dash 3 foot by 7 foot. And I like to label the size of the door when I do this, so that when I report this out later, that definition tells me what it is. And we want to make sure the box is checked for replace selection with component. We're going to click on create. So now what I've got is I've got a 3 foot by 7 foot door right here in my opening. Okay, and so one other thing we want to do with this door is we also want to create some tags. And so in this situation, I'm not going to worry about tagging the overall door yet, and I'll show you why in a minute. But what I do want to do is I want to create tags in my tags section for my frame, my leaf, and my swing. And the reason why we want to tag those separately is because we might want to isolate them later for different line weights or other things like that. So in this case, I'm going to click on the plus button right here, and I'm going to type in arch-door-leaf. And I'm going to take that door leaf and I'm going to put it on the door leaf tag right here. And you can also do that by using the tags function or a toolbar at the top of the page. If you don't see that, you can just right click and click on tags. But I also want to do that for the swing and for the frame. So I'm going to do arch-door-frame, and I'm going to do arch-door-swing. And I'm going to tag all of those. So I'll put this on the door swing. I'm going to put my door frame on the door frame. So now I can toggle those on and off separately if I decide that I want to do that. And so real quick, let's do the same thing with our pocket door right here. Our pocket door is going to be slightly different. So we're just going to draw a rectangle right here, do a shift click in order to pick up these three edges and offset this in by 2 inches. We'll erase out this edge and we'll pull this back to the back side of our wall. Once we've done that, we want to select it, right click, and we're just going to make it a group, and we'll call this door dash frame. And in this case, we've got a door leaf, right? And so that door leaf is actually going to fill in the space like this. And we could, for now, let's go ahead and just model it across this whole opening, right? So I'm just going to use the midpoint in the frame right here, and I'm just going to model a door. And so we'll just say it's going to be 1 inch wide over here, and we'll say it'll be 2 inches wide all the way across, right? So now I've got a full-on door, and you may need to redraw a rectangle over top of this in order to get this face in here, but then we're just going to pull this up like this. And then I'm just going to select that whole thing. And in this case, little trick, we're just going to triple click in here in order to pick up all the connected geometry. I'm going to right click on this. We're going to make it a group, and we'll call it door dash leaf right here. And in this case, since it's a pocket door, you might move it over a little bit like this in order to show that it's a pocket door. You don't have to do that, but you might do that. And we don't really need to draw a swing in this case. So now I've got this pocket door in here. Well, I'm just going to select both parts of this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to make this a component. And we're going to call this door dash pocket dash 3 foot by 7 foot. And we'll click on create. Now with this pocket door, what we can do, right, is first off, we want to make sure that we've tagged our frames and our leaves like this, so that we can toggle those on and off. Then we can take this component and we can use the move tool in copy mode in order to copy it. So I'm going to use the move tool, tap the control key with that tool active. So M, click, control. I'm just going to move my mouse and I'm just going to drop this pocket door here. I'm also going to copy it over here like this. So now we've got pocket doors in here as well. Well, now notice you've got multiple different doors inside of your model. Well, what I want to do is I want to take all of those doors and I want to put them in a group. So you can just do a shift click to select them all. I'm going to right click and I'm just going to create a group called doors. And then what you can do here is you can just create an overall doors tag called arch-doors right here. And we're going to tag that group with doors. Now I have the ability to do multiple things with my doors. So first off, I can toggle my swings on and off, my overall doors group on and off, and then my leaves and my frames on and off as well. So now I have complete control over what I can display in layout. And you'll do the same thing for your front door and your back door. I'm not going to make you watch me do that, so I'll probably just cut through that real quick so we can get to the windows, but that's how you're going to work with those doors as well. And so just real quick, if you decided that you wanted to do this, you could also add trim to these doors. And so if you wanted to add trim, you could just double click into this group, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle over the face right here. And then I'm going to pick up the 3 edges around the outside. I'm going to offset them out by whatever you want the thickness of your trim to be. So maybe call it 3 inches or something like that. But then I'm just going to draw a quick line across the bottom here in order to fill that in. We'll erase out this extra edge. Then we can go ahead and pull this out by whatever the depth of your trim is going to be, maybe like 3/4 of an inch or something like that. But then we would just triple click on that. We would make this a different group and we would call this door dash trim right here. And we would just add a tag for that. So arch dash door dash trim in this case. And if you wanted to, you could also use the move tool in copy mode. And notice how I can copy this across right here, but then I can cut it out of this group and paste it into the other group. So I can do a Control X, and then I can double click into this group. We want to make sure we've picked up the door group. So I want to make sure I'm inside of the pocket door group, but I can do an edit paste in place, and that's going to put it in this group. Well, because that's a component, notice how that trim is going to show up across all of the other iterations of that door as well. And I can always toggle that trim off if I want to, assuming that I make sure to tag it. So now I can toggle all the trim on and off as well. But now let's go ahead and let's model our windows. And so to model our windows, these are all the same size, so we only have to do it once, which is nice. But now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the same thing where I'm going to draw a rectangle across my opening, and I'm going to offset it in by 2 inches. This is going to vary wildly, by the way. I'm going to delete this face out. This will vary wildly depending on the style of window you want to put in your model. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this across, same way we did before. And we're just going to select this. We'll make it a group. And in this case, we'll call it window dash frame right here. And so now that we've got our window frame, we want to add our interior slider to our window, right? So to do that, I can assume that I'm going to have a slider that's going to run to the middle right here, because this is probably going to be a horizontal sliding window. And so I'm just going to draw a line, maybe 1.5 inches here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull this up. And you could also draw it vertically if you decided that you wanted to do that, but I think this is fine. I'm just going to offset this in by maybe call it 1 inch right here. And I'm just going to push pull this to the back to remove that material. So now I can select this whole thing and I can put this in a group. And then within this object, I'm assuming I'm also going to have different window panes. So to model out the window panes, what we can do is we're actually going to start by drawing a rectangle from this corner, to this corner right here. So just a flat surface. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rough out the way that this window is going to be laid out. So in this case, I'm going to draw a line up, and then I can assume that this is probably going to have a couple different horizontal panes. So we'll probably have 1, 2, 3 in here. So what you can do on an edge in SketchUp is you can right click and do a divide. And then you can move your mouse. Well, notice how that's going to allow me to divide this into 4 segments, which is basically going to be, or 3 segments is really what we want. But we can use that for each one of our window panes. And so in this case, I'm just going to draw a line across right here. And now I know what the size of one of the panes is going to be. And so in this situation, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete out all of my extra edges that I drew because I only need to know what one of the panes is going to be. So you can go ahead and delete out this extra geometry. You don't really need it anymore because we're going to model this once. And then once we model it once, we're just going to copy it because, again, we want to reuse as much as possible. So in this situation, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to offset this in by maybe whatever we think the perimeter of this is going to be. Maybe we'll call it a 1/2 inch right here. And then I'm just going to push pull this out a little bit in one direction. So we can say maybe 1/4 inch this way. You'd probably want to do this by the actual dimensions of whatever your window is going to be. Since I'm not sure what those are going to be, this is probably going to be good enough. But notice what I've done is I've now created a small pane in here. Well, I can right click on this and make it a component. And we can call this window pane small. Well, now I'm just going to use the move tool in copy mode in order to create a copy right here. And then we'll use the move tool in array copy mode. So we're just going to select them both, tap the M key and single click, then we'll tap Control and move our mouse up here. Well, remember, you can type in ×2 and hit the Enter key in order to repeat that. And so now we're just going to take all of those panes along with the slider right here, and we're going to right click and we're going to make this a component. We're going to call this window slider. And you could put the size in there if you wanted to. I'm not too worried about that for right now. But now I'm just going to use the move tool in copy mode to copy the slider over here. So now we have this window in here. And one thing we might want to go ahead and do is add a glass material to these panes, which is actually really easy to do because we've set these up as repeating components, right? So I'm just going to double click until I get to this raw face. And we're just going to go into our materials. We'll go to glass and we'll just apply this first glass, the basic glass in here like this. Now, one thing I like to do with the basic glass is I like to bring the opacity up, which you can do with that material selected, which you can select it by using the material sampler right here and clicking on it. But then I like to go into edit and I like to bring my opacity up a little bit just so it doesn't look completely clear. But now I've got a frame and I've got 2 sliders, and I want to take both of those and I want to put them in a component. Now, real quick, we can measure our dimensions just to remember this is a 4 foot by 5 foot window. So we'll take all 3 of these and just do a shift click to select them. We're going to right click. We're going to make this a component. And we're going to call this window dash 4 foot by 5 foot and click on create. So now this window is a component. Well, now I can take this component and I can just use the move tool in copy mode, and I can just create copies in order to fill in all of my openings. Now, obviously, this doesn't always work out this way, but in this case, this is specifically modeled so that the windows are all going to be exactly the same size. But as long as you have windows that are the same size and the same type of window, you should repeat objects as much as you can. But now we've got these windows in here. Well, I'm just going to take them all and select them. So I'm just doing a shift click. I'm going to right click and I'm going to put them in a group. And I'm going to call that group Windows right here. And we're just going to add a tag for ARCH-Windows right here. We'll put our windows on a tag. And now we're set, right? We can toggle our doors on and off. We can toggle our windows on and off, as well as our interior and our exterior walls. And now we can start taking this into layout or doing whatever else we need to with our floor plan. And so if you do want to learn more about taking your models into layout, I definitely recommend you check out the SketchUp Essentials course. We get way in depth on how you can create great looking architectural plans from your SketchUp models. But this should get you organized and ready to go. In the next video, we're going to talk about the new rendering feature that was added in SketchUp 2025. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.